If you believe in hope, transformation, and the power of God to rewrite any story, then you're in the right place. On this channel, we share real, raw, and life-changing testimonies that prove no one is too far gone for God's grace. Every story you hear here is a reminder that healing, deliverance, and restoration are still happening today. So hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join a community that's growing stronger in faith one story at a time. My name is Elena Rivera, and if you had told me years ago that I would live to tell this story, I wouldn't have believed you. My life began in a small town called Meridian Springs, surrounded by tall pine trees and dusty roads. From the outside, it looked peaceful, but inside my home was chaos. My parents fought almost every day. My father was a man who believed in nothing but hard work and beer, and my mother was a woman who carried her pain quietly until she couldn't anymore. When I was 8 years old, they divorced, and everything I thought was safe fell apart. After the divorce, my mom tried to raise me and my younger brother on her own. She worked double shifts at a diner, and most nights I fell asleep to the sound of her crying in the next room. There was no mention of God, no prayers before meals, no hope for anything beyond surviving the next day. By the time I turned 13, I had learned how to hide pain behind dark makeup and cold silence. I felt invisible. I wanted to scream, but no one would hear me. School became my escape, but not in the way teachers hoped. I found friends who felt broken like I did. They listened to loud music, talked about death like it was freedom, and laughed at everything adults called sacred. I thought they understood me. So when they offered me my first cigarette, then pills, then something stronger, I didn't hesitate. I told myself it helped me forget. I didn't know that every puff and every pill was taking me deeper into a hole that would one day nearly take my life. By 15, I was staying out all night, lying to my mom, and hanging out in places no child should ever be. I thought I was free, but really I was running from myself. One night, after a fight with my mom, her boyfriend shouted that I was a burden, that I would end up like the people I called friends, lost and worthless. My mom didn't defend me. She just turned her face away. That silence broke me. I packed a small bag, left a note that said, "Don't look for me," and caught a bus to Phoenix, Arizona, where my dad had moved years earlier. When I arrived, I hadn't seen him in almost 10 years. I didn't even know if he would want to see me. He met me outside a gas station, older and thinner than I remembered. His eyes looked tired, and his hands trembled. I soon learned why. My father had lost everything: his job, his home, and his health. He was sleeping behind an abandoned warehouse with a few other men who shared bottles and secrets. I remember sitting next to him that night, realizing that the man I had come to for safety had no safety of his own to offer. That night I asked myself, is this all life is? For weeks, I stayed with him in an old camper he had borrowed. I learned what hunger felt like, what fear smelled like, and what hopelessness did to the human mind. I didn't know it then, but God was watching. Even in the dirt, even when I cursed the world, He hadn't turned away from me. After 2 months, a distant aunt heard that I was living on the streets and arranged for me to go live with her in San Antonio, Texas. At first, I thought maybe life would get better. She was kind, but she didn't understand me. Her house was neat, quiet, and filled with Bible verses on the walls. I hated it. Every time she mentioned God, I rolled my eyes. I told her if God was real, He must have hated me to let all of this happen. She would just smile softly and say, "He still loves you, even when you don't believe it." I didn't want love. I wanted numbness. So I found ways to sneak out again, met new friends, and fell into old habits. I started dating a boy who sold drugs at parties. He was charming at first, but soon I saw what he really was: angry, controlling, and dangerous. I told myself I could change him, but the truth was he was changing me. I started using again, more heavily than ever before. At 17, I looked at myself in a mirror one morning and didn't recognize the girl staring back. My hair was tangled, my eyes empty, my arms covered with thin scars I couldn't explain to anyone. I told myself I was fine, but deep down, I knew I was dying slowly. One day, I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified. I was still a child myself, and I could barely take care of me. When I told the boy I was dating, he got angry and told me to get rid of it. I didn't argue. I made an appointment at a clinic for the following week. The night before, I sat on the floor of my small apartment, holding my stomach, whispering to the life inside me that I was sorry. I didn't even believe it was a baby, just tissue, just cells. That's what I told myself to make it easier. The next morning, I was about to leave when there was a knock on my door. It was an old neighbor, Mrs. Grant, a gentle woman who had always smiled at me though I never smiled back. She said she couldn't sleep the night before because she felt something heavy in her heart about me. She asked if she could come in. We sat in silence for a few minutes before she handed me a small folded paper. It was a newspaper clipping about a young woman who had died during a clinic procedure. I froze. It was the same clinic I was heading to. Mrs. Grant placed her hand over mine and said softly that she didn't know why she came but felt I was meant to see that. I didn't know what to believe, but her tears moved something inside me. I stayed home that day. I never went to the clinic. Looking back, I know that was the first time God stepped between me and death, even when I didn't know Him. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. It inspires us to see how far these messages of hope are reaching. Whether you're tuning in from a busy city, a small village, or somewhere in between, you're part of this global family of faith that God is building right here. When my daughter, Lila, was born, something inside me awakened. For the first time, I had a reason to live. Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I thought, maybe I can do this. I stopped using drugs for a while, got a small job cleaning offices, and tried to build a quiet life. But old habits die hard. The loneliness came back. The pain of my past whispered again. Soon I was drinking to sleep, telling myself I was managing it. But one bad night turned into another, and soon I was lost again. I would drop Lila off with my aunt and vanish for days. Each time I came back, guilt ate at me like acid. I knew I was destroying the only good thing in my life, but I couldn't stop. I told myself I wasn't worth saving. Deep down, I wanted someone to pull me out, but I didn't know how to ask. The night that changed my life forever began like any other. I had gone to a party after work. There was drinking, loud music, and drugs passed around like candy. I joined in, trying to drown my thoughts. On the drive home, everything blurred. The last thing I remember is seeing bright lights and feeling the car spin. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. My body ached and there were tubes in my arms. A nurse told me I had survived a car crash but that 2 people in the other car hadn't. My world shattered. I was charged with reckless driving under the influence. The weight of guilt crushed me. I wanted to disappear, to stop breathing. I told myself I didn't deserve to live. That was when I prayed for the first time. Not a graceful prayer, but a desperate whisper. I told whoever was listening that I hated my life, that I hated myself, and if He was real, He should just take me. But He didn't take me. Instead, He began to show me mercy. While I waited for my court hearing, I met a woman named Angela, one of the volunteers who visited inmates. She carried a Bible everywhere but never forced it on anyone. One day, she sat across from me and said she believed there was a reason I had survived the crash. I laughed bitterly, but she didn't flinch. She said she felt that God was trying to reach me, that my life wasn't over yet. That night in my cell, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept replaying in my mind. A few days later, during a small prayer gathering at the facility, something strange happened. As people prayed, I felt warmth in my chest, like light pushing out the darkness inside me. I didn't hear a voice out loud, but deep within me, I felt a presence. It revealed to me that I had been running from love, not from life. I felt Him showing me that every pain I had faced, every mistake, had led me to this moment where I could finally surrender. Tears flowed uncontrollably. I asked Him, God, Jesus, whoever he truly was, to come into my heart and make me new. In that moment, I felt free for the first time. The chains of guilt, shame, and fear seemed to melt away. It was as if a gentle wave of forgiveness had washed over me. 3 months after that encounter, I was released with probation instead of a long sentence. I knew it wasn't luck. It was grace. I stepped out of that building a different woman. I started attending church with Angela, even though at first I didn't understand everything. The songs made me cry, and the messages made me see myself in ways I hadn't before. Slowly, I began rebuilding my life. I found a steady job as a receptionist. I rented a small apartment for Lila and me. I started reading the Bible every morning, sometimes not knowing what I was reading but feeling peace just from doing it. The more I read, the more I began to know who God really was, not a distant being who punished, but a father who rescued. Still, life wasn't suddenly easy. I faced whispers from neighbors, judgment from people who knew my past, and nights when fear crept in. But now, I had something stronger than fear. I had hope. I learned to pray not only when I was desperate but also when I was grateful. Have you experienced a moment where God turned your pain into purpose? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be the light someone else needs today. You never know how your journey could encourage another soul or even point them toward freedom. And if you've been through something similar, feel free to offer kind words or advice. Together, we're creating a space where testimonies become the bridge to healing and hope. Years passed, and the more I walked with God, the more I understood His purpose. I began volunteering at a local youth center, sharing with teenagers who felt hopeless like I once did. Many of them reminded me of myself, angry, lost, and trying to fill emptiness with things that would never satisfy. When I told them my story, I could see the light in their eyes. Some cried. Some asked questions about this Jesus who could love someone like me. One evening, as I sat outside watching the sunset, I felt His presence again. He made me understand that He had spared me not just to survive but to help others find life. I realized that the car crash that nearly killed me was also the place where my old self had died, and a new one was born. I began writing about my journey, not to gain attention but to remind others that no one is too far gone. I shared at churches, schools, and recovery homes, telling people that if God could save me, He could save anyone. Every time I spoke, I felt the same warmth that I first felt in that prayer circle years ago. Now, as I look back, I see a pattern of grace woven through every painful chapter of my life. From the broken home in Meridian Springs to the streets of Phoenix, from addiction to motherhood, from near death to new life, God's hand was always there. I once thought I was forgotten, but now I know I was being prepared. Every scar tells a story of mercy. Every tear has become a seed of compassion for someone else. To anyone reading or hearing my story, I want to tell you this: God's love is real. It doesn't matter where you've been or what you've done. You can't run far enough to hide from His mercy. Life will test you, people will fail you, but God never will. Don't wait until you hit rock bottom like I did to call on Him. Seek Him now while you have the chance. Walk with Him daily. Talk to Him through prayer even when you don't have the right words. Read His Word. It's not just a book, it's a letter written to heal and guide you. And love others, even the ones who hurt you. Because love is the language that changes hearts. If He could take a broken girl named Elena Rivera, who once hated herself, and turn her into a woman who now helps others find hope, then truly, nothing is impossible for Him. Stay close to God, forgive quickly, love deeply, and never forget, you are not a mistake. You are a story still being written by the hands of grace.